Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.
Glenn, welcome to the show. It's great to have you with us. Let's talk about the Eagles.
Sure, why not?
That was our attitude going in. All right, so Glenn, how tough is this when the margin of error is so thin for this team?
Well, it's tough, bordering on impossible. They don't have a lot of talent. They don't have a coaching staff that appears to be adept at putting together a game plan or changing that game plan. They have a young quarterback who looks a little lost at sea out there, and they've had some injuries. So you put that formula together, and winning seems close to impossible.
Okay, so let's talk about what's right. You see Devontae Smith. What are you seeing in him? Because he's going to be a long-term solution. What do you see in him that allows him to be that?
Yeah, and the easy answer is speed. But it's speed, but it's not just speed down the field. It's speed off the line. And one of the concerns going in with him was, hey, he's a really small guy. A quarterback's going to line up, whack him at the line of scrimmage, and he's going to fall over. But he gets off the line of scrimmage so quickly, gets into his route so quickly that the cornerback, more often than not, can't touch him. So they have to respect him, so they have to move back a couple of yards. And that's really good. He runs good routes. His hands have been pretty good. I think he's had one or two drops, but nothing serious. It's the kind of thing where if they could get him the ball on a more consistent basis, boy, he could be Rookie of the Year. Don't know that that's going to happen, though.
See, but then let's flip it to the other side. See, Smith is what Rager should have been last year.
Sure.
And still isn't this year.
No.
I think to me, that's a problem, that a first-round pick was wasted on a guy that a lot of us, I said it the day they drafted him. I go, why? I don't get it. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I think that is a problem. He makes poor decisions, not just in pass routes, but they have him as the kick returner, and he'll catch a ball 5 yards in the end zone and run it out to the 18-yard line. Like, what are you doing there? What are you thinking there? Yeah. He makes a lot of mistakes. He, too, has speed, but he hasn't figured out how to use it. I will tell you the one other thing. If you're looking for upside, you're looking for good points,
yes.
Quez Watkins, who's the the second-year receiver, fifth-rounder, I believe, last year. I may be off by around, but I think he was a fifth-rounder last year. He's really good, and he's a deep threat. And, again, if you had a quarterback and you had an offensive line and you had a coach able to scheme this, Quez Watkins' name could be known around the league right now because he has the potential to be a star.
Absolutely agree with that. That's a great point, Glenn. No Miles Sanders right now. Obviously, we've talked about the ability to get the ball into his hands. What do you think the future of Miles Sanders can be with Philadelphia? I mean, is the future in Philadelphia?
I don't think it is because, he's going to be nearing the end of his contract. There was actually some little bit of talk last week that, maybe they could trade him before the deadline. Well, the ankle sprain changes that, of course, and he's not going to get traded. But why would you sign a running back to a second contract if you don't plan to use him? And so it would be a foolish move by the Eagles, and it would be a foolish move by Miles Sanders to stay here any longer than he has to. We know running backs have a certain number of years, certain number of carries in them. He should not waste those years here to get the ball 8 times a game. It doesn't make sense for anybody.
So I know there's only one ball. I've done enough games in my career. Even I get that. Okay. Yeah. So you can't get the ball to Miles Sanders, every player, whatever. But what has been Nick Sirianni's explanation for, at times, the lack of usage from Miles Sanders?
Boy, you're asking me to figure out what this coach is saying. This is a coach who did a whole 3-minute metaphor on the team is the flower, and we have to put down the roots and the fertilizer and the sunshine today that left everybody baffled.
Right.
So,
oh, wonderful. That's fun.
Yeah, so that was one. So I'm trying to think, what is he saying about Miles Sanders? Mostly he says, yeah, that's on me. That's pretty much his explanation, that's on me. Or we thought we saw something. Here's the shame of it. The shame is last week they come out and they finally use him, right? Early on, the first drive, 67 yards they go down the field, 8 plays. He runs the ball. He carries the ball, and he does it effectively. And then that's it. And then, he got hurt in the second possession, but they just stopped running the ball. They didn't give it to Gainwell. They got 4 first downs for the rest of the half, and they were done. And the coach just gave up on the run. Even with Sanders out, he should have stuck with the run. He's got Gainwell, he's got Boston Scott, and he just gave up on it. I just don't think that's part of his package.
All right. What have you thought of the defense? It's one thing, a defense can go out there, they can either get stops or they can get takeaways and set up the offense short in the field. Where's the defense deficient right now that's not giving them more opportunities?
It's all three. It's all three phases. The defensive line is not getting pressure. I think you and I talked about Fletcher Cox last time I was on. His season's a washout. He came out after the game, kind of took a veiled shot at the defensive coordinator, saying, I don't make the scheme around here. I should be rushing the passer, not covering screen passes. And he's right. A player shouldn't take a shot at his coach publicly, but the statement was not incorrect. Anyway, the defensive line isn't getting pressure. The linebackers have been bad on this franchise for years. Singleton gets tackles, right? But his tackles are all after a guy drags him for 8 yards. It's like the old Westerns where the bad guy gets stuck on the horse, behind the horse, dragged by the horse.
Exactly.
That's him trying to tackle a runner. And the secondary is maybe not as bad as the rest, but not very good. Derek Carr was 31 for 34 last week. I don't know that you did that in the backyard when you were 12 years old.
I know. Well, I know I never did. My goodness, if I threw 34 times, I'd have had Hurts's numbers. All right. And even then, it would have been iffy. You notice in this entire conversation so far, I haven't brought up Jalen.
Yeah.
Right, so I saved it for now.
Yeah.
Where is he better? Because now he's got more games under his belt as a starter now than he did last year. And where is he treading water?
Well, the problem is the arrow's really been down the last couple of weeks. I thought he had a couple of good games early in the season, and I thought even with the head coaches, the offense coordinators' inexperience, Hurts was making some things happen. But he's really trended down. The accuracy has not been good. He waits too long on patterns. He'll have a guy, it's the NFL. If somebody's open, they're going to be open for a half of a second. That's when you got to throw it. You got to get it in that window. And he doesn't. He waits. You see it on the replay. Somebody's open 10, 12, 15 yards down the field and has his arm up and the ball's not thrown yet. So he has a tough time spotting open receivers, which is very problematic. His accuracy's not good. What I like about the kid is he's got very good leadership skills, which is, I think, important even as the team is kind of falling apart. He's gutsy. It's like all of the things that aren't actually in the play of the game. In the play of the game, he's obviously very elusive. He's a good runner, although he hasn't figured out when and where to run. But one of the big challenges right now with the Eagles is how much of their deficiency is the coach, how much is the quarterback, how much is talent. Can we fairly judge Jalen Hurts for the future when he's in this bad of a situation? And that's the decision the Eagles are going to have to make at the end of the year.
Yeah, because I think for the most part, the quarterback you see in college, you are who you are. Now, you can get a little bit better as the game slows down at the next level. But to be honest with you, he's playing the way he did at Alabama and Oklahoma. He's just doing it on a pro stage, doing the same things.
Yeah, and the Las Vegas Raiders are a little bit better than some of the teams. Listen, they played a good schedule in college, but playing against much better talent right now.
No doubt. I mean, I wouldn't, Vanderbilt, Raiders, right. Vanderbilt.
Yeah, there you go. It's a little bit different. You don't have that margin for error that you had going up against old Vandy.
But it's interesting about that because Najee Harris led the nation in broken tackles last year. Well, you notice with the Steelers right now, that's not happening. Okay?
Right.
He's not being tackled by the Ole Miss defense, and he's not being hit. And he's not being hit 5 yards downfield first on first contact either. A little bit different.
Yeah.
So how do you view Detroit this weekend? This matchup.
I don't listen. I hate this question. The Lions have not won a game.
Yep.
And the Lions have not won a game on merit. I have not watched them much, to be honest with you, because they're the Lions. They don't come on my television. But I can't pick the Eagles to beat anybody right now. And what I don't know out of Detroit is, are they hanging in? They have the first-year coach, Dan Campbell, and he's the real tough guy. We're going to bite their ankles and all that stuff, bite their kneecaps, whatever it was.
Right.
And if they're hanging in and Detroit wants to win, I think they can win this game, and I think the Eagles are this close to kind of being so dispirited that the entire season goes down the tubes. Because I think things are pretty I wish desperate. Desperate means you want to win. I think things are pretty disconsolate around here right now. I think the veteran players are not happy with the coach. I think that the defense is very dejected. I think there's no voice in that coach's room that commands respect. And I think the Eagles are on the precipice. Again, you can beat Detroit because Detroit has a lot of talent. But if they don't beat Detroit, I just see this thing tumbling.
I apologize for the last question, but you knew I had to ask it. And it's just, I don't blame you for saying you hate answering a question like that.
Well, that's
I don't
all
blame
right.
you at all. Glenn, appreciate you so much. Thanks for the great answers.
Hey, it's always my pleasure. Anytime.